No problem at all, Tom. Excellent. So just to recap, my name's David Northey from the Somerset Bus Partnership, previously of Network Rail in the strategic planning team, looking after transport from a rail perspective, primarily across the southwest, but been a growing interest in connectivity using other forms of transport, so you create a seamless journey opportunity, whether you start off by walking or cycling, using a bus and a train to get to another specific journey. And I think that sort of connecting communities, which is the Somerset bus line sort of strap line, and encouraging public transport, is the sort of essence of the sort of first and last mile. And in Somerset, although we don't have a lot of railways, they do connect most of the major towns within the county. And there's a real opportunity at where we have stations. We have 10 stations in total in Somerset, of which I think 9 have really got an opportunity that we can start to expand and improve the bus connectivity to make much more sort of bigger and greater journeys across the county. So it was an opportunity to get Luke and Andrew. Luke works for GWR and Andrew works for SWR, and with an interest in sort of the whole sort of bus connectivity and the benefits that have done across other parts of the network, that is there an opportunity that we could work with these partners to see if we could improve bus connectivity from railway stations as a start, as Peter said, sort of to grow bus usage, to grow rail usage, to grow that usage in the whole of sort of sustainable transport across the county. So without further ado, I think both Luke and Andrew, do you want to just give a brief introduction? But I think you are going to do a joint presentation for us. And then at the end, I think I'd like to hold back for any questions. If anybody has an idea as they're going along, think I must capture that, feel free to write it in the chat. And then when we get to the end of the presentation, I will then sort of facilitate the questions to Luke and to Andrew. So
Thank you, David.
Luke.
Just a couple of pieces more of admin, apologies. So The first one is, could Peter enable screen sharing, please? Because you are now the host again. So I think
I made you the host.
It's probably well, make me the host again, and that'll have the same effect. Sorry. Thank you. And David, could you unspotlight yourself? Because lovely though it would be to stare at you for the next hour and a half, just minding your own business, I don't think that's it. Right, can I share my... Now, do we have the real Mr. Ardley with us, or have I kicked him out by accident?
No, you still got me.
Oh, hello.
He's definitely there. He's definitely there. And I suppose just looking back at all the faces, it's great to see a good collection of people here today. And I think this has drawn a lot of interest, both Andrew and Luke, about the whole of sort of this bus connectivity and connectivity with railways. So it's a great opportunity. And you can see even those people that necessarily we didn't want to invite had an interest of, oh, well, let's join this exciting meeting.
Thank you, David. So just to introduce myself, so I'm Luke Farley. I'm the Transport Integration Manager at GWR, although I think I might get a job in IT on cyber security in future. That might be my calling. And my job is to work on schemes that better link GWR's train service with forms of sustainable transport. So bus is obviously a really big part of that. Andrew.
Hi, yes, Andrew Ardley. I'm the Development Manager for the West, for the South Western Railway. So my patch covers Salisbury to Exeter and Christchurch down to Weymouth. And I do a similar role to some of Luke's colleagues in GWR in terms of all sorts of things, at stakeholder management, stakeholder relations, but also lots of projects to improve the railway, which includes integration with other modes, whether it's cycling or buses.
How are we getting on, Peter, with making me the host?
You should now be the host.
Hurrah, it's working. Marvellous. We'll share thy screen. Hopefully you can see this first slide. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Okay, bear with.
It's coming up now, I think, Luke. Yes, it's up now, yeah.
So you can see a picture of a bus. And
Bus,
stuff.
yeah, phoned by
Marvellous.
159003 and 158952.
David, I'll buy you a pint later if you can tell me what the name of that 159 is. We'll come back to that.
Oh.
So welcome, thank you. This whole presentation is very much a double act between Andrew and I. So, you know, we're trying to approach the whole bus rail integration thing not as one train operator or another, actually far better to take a location and look at it holistically and as an industry. That's very much how we're keen to kind of look at this going forward. So hopefully you won't hear too much from me or Andrew in total. So it'll be a nice combined effort. So we just wanted to open the presentation with some really salient words from Sir John Betjeman, and I'm hoping the sound is going to work. If I could have a thumbs up from Mr. Northey, or otherwise, if it's working.
Yeah.
So it'll just sort of set the tone for what we're going to talk about, hopefully.
I can't hear the sound. This is Glastonbury Street.
Is it not the sound not coming out?
Not sound, not here.
Hang on a sec.
Right.
I'm going to make it work if it's the last thing I do. Share screen. There we go. Share sound. Didn't press the right button, did I? Share. Here we are.
Right, okay.
Is that showing?
It hasn't started yet. Go on.
Enjoying this journey as much as I am.
Oh, yes, it has now.
Great.
You might have stopped it, Luke.
I say, I hope you're enjoying this journey as much as I am. You rarely see much more country once you've got out of the railway station from a train than ever you do from a motor car. No hoardings, no road signs, no lorries in front of you, and no neurotics hooting behind you. This is Sedgemoor. Do you remember Hardy's poem, The Tramp Woman's Tragedy? It's written to a sort of railway meter, and it fits here. From Wynyard's Gap, the livelong day, the livelong day, we beat afoot the northward way we had travelled times before. The sun blaze burning on our backs, our shoulders sticking to our packs. By Fossway fields and turnpike tracks, we skirted sad Sedgemoor. For months we padded side by side, aye, side by side, through the great forest, black moor wide. You know, I'm not just being nostalgic and sentimental and unpractical about railways. Railways are bound to be used again. They're not a thing of the past. And it's heartbreaking to see them left to rot, and to see the fine men who served them all their lives made uncertain about their own futures and about their jobs. What's more, it's wrong in every way, when we all of us know that road traffic is becoming increasingly hellish on this overcrowded island, and that in 10 years from now there'll be 3 times as much traffic on English roads as there is today. What will the West Country be like then? How will we get anywhere in summer, except by railway? How will we see any country, except from a train? I think it's more than likely that we'll deeply regret the branch lines we've torn up and the lines that we've let to go to rot. I mean, even in America, they're already building new suburban railway lines.
So just some really sort of apposite words. It's a film I really like because, I mean, Sir John is talking about this before it really happened. And that was 60 years ago this year. So I think he was pretty, and I think probably the sentiment he shared is probably shared by all of us. So I just thought it'd be nice to sort of set the tone with. So
and
there we go.
Somerset theme as well. So
yeah.
Oh, I think we've lost Luke, have we?
I'm here. Sorry,
There you are.
I accidentally muted myself. So yeah, no, I just wanted to sort of end the history lesson with, look what we've lost in terms of railway. These are all stations, large settlements in Somerset that were once directly connected to the rail network, and we don't have that.
You got a presentation? Because
I think there might still be some gremlins at play here, but try again. Is that showing, David?
It's coming back on, yeah. Glastonbury, Wincanton, Yeovil Town, Delverton, Langport, Shepton, Mallow.
Marvellous. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so we've lost all these places from the rail network, and all the benefit that being part of the rail network brings. So, just to remind ourselves of that. But I think the key thing is, I think, as I hope we'll demonstrate in the next few slides, and with some examples of where work has been done, actually, a lot of the benefits, although a railway would be nice, a lot of the benefits, can be achieved through having a very good bus service, a bus service that integrates with the railway network that's still there. So all is not lost, as I hope we can sort of demonstrate going forwards. So just to describe the context, I'll do the green bits and Andrew can do the blue bits and the joint bits, I reckon. I think that's probably save you listening to me the whole time. You'll know all of this, but obviously Great Western Railway runs the high-speed service from Taunton along the line through Castle Carey towards London Paddington. And also we run the local services from the West Country through Taunton, through Bridgewater and Highbridge towards Weston as well as the local services up from Weymouth that serve Yeovil, Penmill, Castle Bruton and Frome. Mr. Ardley's network.
Yep. So obviously the blue line, the main blue line is the West of England line, which runs from Waterloo to Exeter. So you've obviously basically got an hourly service through there, and then we also run a certain number of services, usually starting at Yeovil Junction, going via Castle Carey from Westbury back down to Salisbury to then join up usually with another train from Exeter. There's a number of reasons for that. Partly provide some extra through services to Waterloo, but also it's a very important diversion route as well. So it gives our drivers and guards route knowledge. So yeah, those are our two main routes.
Thanks, Andrew. So I think what this map highlights is yes, there's a fair amount of rail connectivity in particular parts of the county, but look at the deserts of rail that are there. Look at West Somerset, and I know there's the steam railway, but look at the gap, in South Somerset, in the northwest of Yeovil and above Castle Carey and Mendip. There's huge swathes of the county that aren't directly connected to rail, and so the onward sustainable travel is particularly pertinent, I believe, in Somerset because of just the nature and the geography of what we've got. So you look at the large settlements that aren't directly connected by rail, they're listed there. I'm not going to go through every single one, but you look at the populations and the nearest sort of railheads, and those railheads vary, between, in Yeovil's case, just over a mile, and a bit further, in Minehead's case, by 25 miles. But actually, as we all know, the Minehead to Taunton link is probably the most developed of all the rail bus connectivity. So that 25-mile figure doesn't matter because the service is provided in a certain way. So the distance isn't necessarily the problem. It's about what is being developed and provided.
So just to point out on that, we've got Axminster into the table for chart. Maybe put it on the other slide, but not on this one.
In the chaos, Andrew, I've opened up the wrong slide back. I'm so sorry. I'm now hoping that your slides are in here. Yes, Axminster, whilst not in Somerset, as I'm sure Andrew will explain, is sort of key part of the jigsaw. So, as two train operators, GWR and SWR, these are our sorts of main objectives when it comes to transport integration. So we want to get people out of the private car. I think that's pretty rooted in working for rail. We are taking a top-less approach to this integration. I don't care who's operating what, both rail and bus. It's actually about what the network looks like and what it's doing for customers. So we take a neutral view on working with specific bus operators. Sometimes people say, well, of course, Great Western are doing this work with bus company, with bus because first run buses as well. Well, actually, that's got nothing to do with it. You know, a lot of our collaboration has been with Stagecoach and independent bus operators, and obviously the relationship with local authority is really important. And obviously, we actually have a very significant section of shared railway as well in Somerset. So, you know, there's a lot of crossover there. So anything you wanted to add? I can't see anyone. I can't see you either, Andrew. So you just, so apologies if.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you said it there. It's if you think about the direction of travel with the railway towards, in theory, a more integrated approach. The Great British Railways, if it happens, but the point is that this sort of guiding mind, hopefully we're ahead of the game in this guiding mind, in terms of, it does, as Luke said, it doesn't matter who's operating it. The point is the railway connects with other modes, whether it's bus or whether it's something else. So I think this is very much the way forward.
So we've done an assessment. We've taken those big locations in Somerset, and we've taken the railheads that apply to them, and we've tested the connectivity with the current bus service and the frequency, and looked at the times to see how this integration between the bus network and the rail network stacks up. And it wasn't very good. Minehead to Taunton, tick. Yeovil, the Yeovil Town bus link, largely tick. But you try and make any of the journeys in the from and to columns by bus and train combined, and it doesn't really work. Whether that's because there is no bus service, or because the bus service it does run doesn't go to the railway station, or whether that's because the bus does run and it goes to the station and the timetables don't work together. So there's a mixture of issues there. Specifically, so on the GWR sort of side of things, a lot of the integration for Glastonbury, Street and Wells, that kind of goes north-south. You know, if you're really needing to catch a train from those locations, it's all via Bristol and Bath and the Mendip Explorer network, rather than to the south or the west of the county. I don't know, Andrew, if you've got any commentary on, say, Chard or some of your stations.
Yeah, as you say, there's a sort of quite a variety of issues here. As you say, in some cases the buses don't time up, and also they don't go anywhere near the railway station. In other cases, like Chard to Axminster, actually does go to the railway station, but the times don't quite tie up. Or at least there might be a couple of buses which do, but the rest don't. So there's quite a range of connectivity there. We've had to summarise it in a blue, in a red or green, but actually within that there's quite a bit of variety as to what works well and what doesn't, and how much change needs to happen to make it work.
Definitely.
And I think this is very illustrative. I think Luke and Andrew of the challenges of connectivity in Somerset. As you say, Minehead to Taunton, it's always been that good. And when the buses are every 30 minutes, the connectivity is much better. But you've got some routes that actually should be connecting and opening up lots of journeys, and it's a very interesting sort of list. And I suppose to the audience, you know, we've picked some of just the principal towns and locations within Somerset to give some idea, and I think this is a good piece of work.
And I think just sort of the other things worth pointing out is that we've got quite a lot of single track railways that go through Somerset or link into Somerset. So certainly for our West of England line, that's a major constraint in terms of how you time trains. And obviously that also applies to the Heart of Wessex line going up to Castle Carey as well through Yeovil. So there are physical infrastructure constraints which also have an impact on how easy it is to make these things work.
And I suppose that's a really important piece, I think, because it often fixes the rail timetable, and it's very difficult to sort of change from one to the other. So
I think what's really positive about this, because I don't want to be totally negative, is that yes, there are some routes in which there's no bus service at all, but there are lots of routes where there is actually a good frequency, and is relatively low-hanging fruit. So just a tweak would solve some of this stuff quite easily. So I think, you know, we in terms of strategizing for the future, we need to determine what we can do within, say, a year and what's sort of longer term. But I think there's plenty of opportunity here, and that's not even necessarily going to need huge sums of money. It's going to need glue and the guiding mind in people to make it happen. So I am optimistic that we can make a big difference actually in future.
Excellent. And to anybody that have questions, we'll let the presentation go through. I've noticed one or two hands up, but we'll come back. So if you can hold that until we've gone through, thank you.
Thank you. So I've just mentioned low-hanging fruit, and just to very quickly sort of describe what they might be and what we've sort of done already in easy opportunity. So I mentioned tweaks to the timetables to improve the connections, and I'm not talking, you know, 40 minutes, I'm talking maybe 5 minutes or, you know, 6 or 7 minutes, just to improve the reliability of a connection or make it possible potentially. I'm talking about better wayfinding and information provision at stations. You know, it's not rocket science, it's pretty, you know, basic stuff. It just needs some care and some love. As train operators, we can just make that happen in terms of, you know, providing a space for it. It just needs a guiding mind over it. Likewise, on board trains, you know, we have these modern information systems. Some are better than others, but the basic principle of being able to say change here for the bus to X, Y, and Z is there and can be achieved. And there's plenty of marketing opportunities that are kind of there already. So a lot of the promotions for sort of bus that GWR have already taken this year, it was already there. You know, it was just, you know, Minehead being the sort of key one in Somerset really is there is more that we could be doing and should be doing in promoting those onward destinations. I don't know if you've got a view on that, Andrew.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, you know, we've got lots of other examples elsewhere on the network where it can work really well. And as you say, just a bit of promotion through, and I know you're going to talk about community rail partnerships later, but the combination of things of promotion and just getting people to think, oh, actually you can do it, give them the confidence you can do it. A lot of it is about that. So yeah, there's as Luke said, there's huge opportunities out there. It's just time and a little bit of money in some cases, but mainly time.
I think as well, Andrew, I think the micro makes the macro. So there's things I've done this year where people have said, well, not really anyone's going to do that. And I've sort of gone back and said, well, I don't really care whether, I do care whether people are going to do it or not. But actually, you're constructing the sort of spirit of you can catch a bus, it is an option. And I think you do that progressively. You know, by continually reminding people that bus is there as an option.
Yeah, you're right. And I think something Luke and I have talked about quite a bit is having a sort of consistent approach and structure across the Southwest, so that wherever you're traveling in the Southwest, you know, instead of branding it SWR or GWR or something else, we're looking to try and, so you've got a consistent, you say, right, there is a rail bus link, and you recognise that straight away, and you've got confidence that is there to do that. So, yeah, with more work on that, we can have. I think the Southwest can be a real leader in this way forward.
That's our plan, isn't it, Andrew? To the consistent approach. That's it. That's the key.
Yeah. Right. So this is me, isn't it? So
yeah.
So there's lots of different ways of tackling this, and it so happened SWR had in its original franchise plans with the government a commitment to do travel plans for stations, and we've carried that on in the subsequent business plans through the pandemic, and also and into the latest agreement with government. And obviously the point of doing travel plans is that you look at a station and you look at what you're trying to do, what bus routes are there you can connect to. It's not just buses, obviously. It could be cycling, could be shared transport, it could be taxis, it could be all sorts of things. The point is what do you need to do at the station? It's mainly physical in this case. It could be signing, it could be information, and it doesn't have to be paper information. It could be digital information. Do you have real-time bus information, for example? But it's looking at the station as a whole and following the customer through the station, and bearing in mind you obviously got to do all sorts of other stuff in the background. You need to have people who need to have the information before they make the journey. So this is one part of the journey. But the important point is when you get to the station, you've got the right signing, people are confident, they know where they're going, and they know what they can find the right information. Hopefully it's up to date. And that's the point of doing a travel plan. It is a plan which you then have to obviously implement, and that's really the next stage for us. And as it says on there, this isn't a static plan. These are live documents which we update and link to as we become aware of new development local plans and changes in travel patterns. So the challenge for us now, certainly SWR, is to work through those and hopefully find the funding sources and make the changes as and when we can do so. Okay, back to you, Luke.
Thank you, Andrew. So just want to talk briefly about the sort of type of partnership working that we're both keen to adopt going forward. So I mentioned the kind of generic, not generic, but the regular communication I get about, it's a first initiative, which it absolutely isn't. So I just wanted to sort of demonstrate that with a couple of examples. So there's the cross collaboration with Stagecoach, smack bang in the middle there. That's Stagecoach up in Cheltenham. I never thought I'd live to see the day when Stagecoach and Great Western Railway had their brands together, but there you go. So that's going on to buses that serve Cheltenham Spa Station in the next few weeks. And that's tied into a marketing campaign, both online, but also we're having some bus shelters wrapped that say, catch the bus to the station from this bus shelter, that immediate kind of message there. We've been working with, Cornwall Council's Transport Authority, Transport for Cornwall, and that's obviously multi-bus operator on some very sort of basic schemes. So that's wayfinding at Par Station between platform and the bus stops, which are just out on the main road. Just again, maybe it'll help a few people, and that's great. But as well as the practical purpose of wayfinding, what that's doing for everyone that goes past that sign is reminding them that bus is an option. So it's an advert as well as it is a practical thing.
I think that element is easily underestimated how important that is. And I was talking to about something really quite simple, which we need to talk to the highway authorities about is the signing to stations adequate from the local roads? And I know come across quite a few examples that where it is almost non-existent, and it's that advertising saying the railway station's there. And as Luke said, then you are saying also there is a bus link. This bus link is here. Come and use it.
Definitely. What I'm really excited about over in Wiltshire is Wiltshire Council is to relaunch its demand responsive network, and it sees rail as a key part of that. So I'm having the signs replaced at Bedwin Station to say not only change for buses to Marlborough, but this is actually how you do it. This is what you. This is the app you use and the phone number that you ring. So hopefully that will support some passenger numbers on there. And this is all very templated. It's not we're not doing a new thing each time. We've got the templates of the sign designs, and we've got the template. So the Cheltenham Stagecoach bus, Stagecoach run buses in that livery in all sorts of different locations served by SWR and GWR. But that's there now. It doesn't matter whether that's Cheltenham or Exeter or other Portsmouth or wherever it may be. So at the moment, the plan is very much about getting easy to roll out templates that don't take a lot of money, that don't need a huge amount of work to customize it to the area or to the train operator involved. So that
gives confidence and reassurance that there's that same. It's the same branding right throughout the network, and certainly when British Rail was the concept of signage in being all the same, so that a passenger can arrive somewhere and see, I know that sign is telling me something. You can see the same thing here, here, and here. And working with those companies is great news, Luke.
just a little case study, really, of that bus shelter, so which is in Kingsbridge in Devon, and Devon County Council subsidise the 164, which goes from Totnes down into the South Hams. And we've worked really closely with Devon and the operator Tally Ho to promote that as a rail link service. The timetable is aligned with the trains and that sort of thing. That shelter at Kingsbridge bus station is actually owned by Kingsbridge Town Council. So I just very cheekily went along to Kingsbridge Town Council and said, I'd really like to promote both the train and the bus in conjunction with one another. How do you fancy me plastering your shelter in stickers? And Kingsbridge Council said, well, actually, the idea of having this, again, I use the word spirit quite a lot, but it seems the right word. So they basically said the idea of having the spirit of the railway brought back to Kingsbridge is a really good thing for the town. So off you go. And they offered us that space for nothing. We obviously we paid to have it done, and it's a model actually. Andrew and I are really keen. It's in a world of not a lot of money flying around. A few £100 worth of vinyl sticker has a huge impact in a place that isn't directly rail served. So really keen to do more of that. Mr. Ardley.
Right. So obviously, yes, providing the service is one thing, but in some cases you do need to improve the infrastructure to make it happen. So we're quite fortunate in the sense, and I know Luke will talk about the GWR ones. We do look for opportunities where we need to improve the infrastructure to make things happen. So sometimes, for example, there is no bus stop on the station. So Weymouth's a good example. That was a project that was funded, was delivered by Dorset Coastal Forum, partly funded by us, but they raised the rest of the money. And for the first time, you've now got direct bus interchange on Weymouth Station forecourt, and you can get a bus along the Jurassic Coast, you get a bus to Portland, and there's lots of other improvements as part of the scheme for the pedestrians and cyclists. But that was a real game changer, and it's something we can really start selling this year now the scheme's complete. We've got a number of other schemes. A big one is Salisbury that's due to start this year, and again, for the first time, apart from the Stonehenge bus, which only just about gets on the forecourt, the first time that will enable direct buses to come straight into the station. So sometimes you do have to spend some fairly significant money to make things really work properly. The Salisbury scheme is over £5 million, as is the Southampton Central scheme. And in both cases, that is partners who've gone away, found the money, bid to government, secured the money with some help, contribution from us. But it doesn't have to be big schemes. The Pinho one's a good example, where it's a Devon County scheme, but it's actually on Devon land, smaller scale, but does the same job and enables both the bus interchange and cycle interchange. Luke, over to you for GWR schemes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I'm sort of sailing on the wave of a lot of Andrew's good work. Weymouth for me is a superb scheme because the buses and the trains at Weymouth, I used to live in Weymouth as well, so it's a bit of a pet location, but actually there's a lot of possible onward travel from Weymouth, including Portland and along the south coast over to Lower Worth and Bridport as demonstrated. So that's what this interchange is facilitating. It's not just about the location that it happens to be in. On the Great Western Railway patch, Taunton, when that opens, that's going to be a breath of fresh air. The interchange, when that reopens at Taunton, which will be not in the not too distant future now. I think there's an end in sight, so that's going to be really good. There's obviously a lot of work going on at Castle Carey. Now, that's at the moment primarily around expanding the car park, which I don't actually want to totally demonise the car, because the car has a role to play at some of these more parkway style stations. Without the car, Tiverton Parkway, for example, wouldn't be quite the success it is. And actually far better for a car to do 20 miles and then a train do 80 miles than a car do 100 miles. So there is a place there. But for me, it's about trying to tie in the sustainable modes, and that being a real alternative to cars to those stations. So Castle Cary is one that we're looking at very, very closely. I can't claim that I'm happy with where we've got to right at this moment in time, but it's very much on the desire list. Bridgewater as well has had a nice forecourt and has had a bus turning circle installed, and it can certainly take the smaller size buses, and I'd really like to do something at Bridgewater, if only into the town centre, but to use that facility to much better advantage.
Sorry, Luke, just before you go on,
sorry,
I forgot to mention, what's quite nice about this is that a number of these stations, so Weymouth, Salisbury and Southampton, and hopefully Pinho, not too far away, are served by both SWR and GWR. And so they're not just about one operator, it's benefiting more than one operator.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah.
It really shows what you can do when you work together.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Community rail partnerships. I think I'm only here because of the Sevenside Community Rail Partnership. I think that's it was work with Sevenside that led Mr. Northey and into inviting me and Andrew along. So very grateful for that. But the community rail partnerships, and Andrew, your community rail partnerships in the area. Just remind me, sorry.
So we've got Blackmore Vale is probably the main one, but East Devon obviously comes as far as Axminster. So, and then obviously we've got others. There's the Heart of Wessex one, which is as well, which touches on it. The South Wessex, I should call that now. So yeah, so there's a number of CRPs, and they're really, really important.
Well, the amazing thing about community rail partnership. It's that they know the area absolutely forensically. They know the local issues. I try and keep in touch with it, and I do to a point, but actually, community rail partnerships are living in these locations. So Sevenside Community Rail Partnership have acted, for me as a real sort of honest friend. So David is there telling me when things are wrong, and he doesn't let me off the hook, actually. Lovely a chap how he is. It's that kind of school teacher relationship of nice guy, but he does tell me off from time to time, but that's fine because that's how it is. But we've actually managed to deliver some very, practical improvements in Somerset, thanks to the insight of the rail partnership. Yeah, again, that wayfinding thing, knowing that actually just a very short announcement at a particular station would highlight a particular facility. So the picture there on the left, that's not bus actually, that's about the Two Tunnels path that goes over to Midford, which is a pedestrian and cycle route. And highlighting that as right there at Oldfield Park, up near Bath, I think surprised a few people in a way because they weren't expecting it. But anything that will grow that active travel and sustainable travel has to be a good thing. Mr. Ardley.
Yep. So this is really just to illustrate some of the schemes I was talking about just now. So the scheme on the left is the Pinho interchange, and this just really helps to illustrate. Buses can be important, but it's not just all about buses. Both Luke and I are very, very keen on the concept of sort of having modal hubs that are multimodal, and sometimes there's new opportunities like shared bikes, like you can see the co-bikes here, and we've got co-bikes at quite a few extra stations now, and it's really started off as something a bit different to complement the bus, which we've got there at Pinho as part of the scheme, and it's all about offering the customer what they need. And one of the next stages that we're looking at a number of our stations is, for example, introducing more car club vehicles. So again, offering something different again. So these are all different, and then this is the point of doing station travel plans, is you work out what the best thing is for that station, depending on where people need to go, and obviously then making sure people are aware of it and they know those facilities are there. The scheme on the right is just the two pictures on the right are just showing the before and after images of what Southampton's forecourt will look like. So again, it might say, oh, well, Southampton's not really relevant to us, but it will be, because a lot of people travel from Somerset to Southampton for various reasons. So it's not just about the start of your journey, it's what happens at the end of your journey. And that's why it's just as important what happens outside Somerset as what happens in it. Okay,
yeah,
back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about the bus branch line initiative, and it's something that's been talked about for a number of years. And I've had many a conversation with Bryony. I think Bryony and I used to code name it as Rubber Rail. But you know, that conjured all sorts of worries. So we went with Bus Branch Line as a working title. And the Bus Branch Line is very much about treating a bus route as though it were part of the railway line, in all but the fact that it's a train. And it's achieved through having a really tight relationship with between the train operator, the bus operator, and the local authority. So the local authority who often subsidise the service, and obviously the bus operator at the coalface providing the service on the ground. It starts with integrating the timetable. Well, actually, I'll go back one stage further back. It starts with taking the timetable and seeing if it works, and if it doesn't, the local authority on some of these routes has funded an improvement to the timetable. So the photo on the top there is the 310, which ran from Barnstaple bus station over to Linton and Lynmouth. The Devon County Council funding paid for that to be turned into a clock face hourly timetable and extended it back to Barnstaple railway station. So that bus waits outside the station now for the train to arrive. And that's the basic premise. The train and the bus are timed to coincide. We support, as train operators, with the route branding on the buses, with a marketing strategy, with getting timetables out in the way that we can get timetables out. And that's not just us as train operators, but I mentioned the rail partnerships. So Devon and Cornwall Rail Partnership are hugely proactive in promoting these routes into places where I wouldn't have even thought of, you know, right down to the village hall receptions and you know, local amenities where maximum visibility can be reached. Note the Rail Link branding on the bus. It's not a Great Western brand. It's not Cross Country or anyone else. It's just Rail Link. For the more historically minded of you, that is very much what British Rail used to call its bus links. It does what it says on the tin. It takes the spirit, that word again, of the railway out into the wider community, and for me is a neutral but clearly railway visual that that can be used. So we take it as a package. So as well as the buses, as well as the timetable, we double check the information at the stations and on the trains to make sure these routes are being promoted. Posters and announcements, as I said. And we review the physical interchange. So at Totnes, Totnes had a scheme where the overbridge was replaced with a new lift bridge, but it was further down the platform, and so the exit to the station was moved. And the bus stop was in the wrong place suddenly, but it kind of didn't get picked up as part of that scheme. So as part of the bus branch line scheme, we simply moved the bus stop pole so it was next to the exit and made sure that the bus was in everyone's way and they were tripping over it. So it was easier to get on it than try and walk around it to get a taxi. And it's things like that that are really, really key. So this is an example. This is actually a Devon and Cornwall Rail partnership, part of that, one of their leaflets, but we've provided some additional pages within that. Shows you the Oakhampton connectivity, as well as the sort of through journey opportunities. Is there, David, you've had your, Andrews, you've had your little scheme at Pinho. I didn't know if you wanted to mention.
Yes, yes. So that was an ask again, where it's part of our Customer and Community Improvement Fund. We contributed to it, but Devon used some Section 106 funding and local transport plan funding. So as well as creating the physical interchange, up until that point, the only place the bus could stop was in the road. It created a new car park, got cars off the road. It allowed space for the e-bikes, but it also created a place that the bus could turn around. So that now provides as part of this CSIF funding, that's providing a trial for a bus link from Pinho on sort of peak hours to not just the extra airport, but also the business parks in between. So we're hoping that will be successful, and we've got to do some more work and promotion, hoping to use some of the branding sort of types that Luke's using, so that Bill again could say, yeah, I know it's there, and and they see they've got that option to get to the airport. And we're working closely with the airport to promote Pinho as an interchange especially coming from the east. So yeah, there's always opportunities out there, and it's all just being alive to them.
I was delighted to see on Devon County Council's leaflet, is it the 43, the service?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was delighted to see on their leaflet the Rail Link 43 logo, which Devon kind of took off their own bat and put it on their publicity. So some of it's about just gaining the momentum and the buy-in, and people will sometimes go off and just do this stuff themselves, which is really nice to see, because it means we don't have to sort of push the agenda so much. So all of that, key for me, following it up with a really strong marketing strategy so people don't forget about it. So Jo Hake, in my part of in Great Western, she's my marketing lead, and has become well known for producing some really stunning videos advertising some of these bus connections. So I'm just going to share with you the video for Salcombe. And that has been produced by the Devon and Cornwall Rail Partnership and one of their companies that they work with the support of many. So enjoy. Hopefully it's going to work.
No sound though, Luke.
What I'm going to do then...
You can see the images in the room.
I'm going to just stop. I'm going to reshare my screen. Bear with me just a second.
Whilst you're doing that, just talking about the rail partnerships, the Severn Side, Blackmore Vale and Heart of Wessex, good real opportunity to work with them, and thinking from the Somerset Bus Partnership. And so there's some of the ideas and funding that's been discussed here for us to explore. So
thank you, David. Is that showing again?
It hasn't start. Go on then.
Is it yeah, there we go.
It's not playing. Oh, there it's going now.
Hi, I'm Hattie.
And I'm Chris.
Join us as we explore glorious Salcombe on the South Devon coast, showing you just how easy it is to visit this beautiful part of the world by train and onward bus. To get there, we took the train from London Paddington, enjoyed the famous views of the Devon coast, and arrived in Totnes in just 2 hours 45 minutes.
So we've just arrived at Totnes, and our bus to Salcombe is right outside the station.
We stopped off en route in the lovely town of Kingsbridge to have an explore, before getting back on the bus for the 15-minute ride down to Salcombe.
So here we are in Salcombe.
What should we do first?
Of course, you can't visit Salcombe without trying Salcombe gin.
And it's distilled right here. Cheers. You know what we haven't done yet?
What's that?
Get the ferry. So what did you think of Salcombe?
I loved it. It's gorgeous. It's also super easy to get to.
If you want to plan your own trip, here's how to do it. Bye!
So there you go, gin, chocolate, ice cream, trains and buses, which sounds like a pretty nice day out, as far as I'm concerned. So there we go, there's an example, and there's plenty more in the pipeline, and they're not difficult to produce, actually. They just need a bit of local knowledge, a little bit of money to produce them, and actually just somewhere to put these have Facebook pages, for example, where they can be shared. So really looking forward to sort of rolling that out more widely. And Andrew and I are, we're sort of coming up with cunning plans and sort of joint stations like Weymouth being a good example of where we can roll that out. I wanted to kind of finish up really with my bucket list really, and sort of just share where I'm sort of minded to where the opportunities are. And that's not to say that this is it. This list can be added to, and that's part of this session is, getting together and sharing where things work could be done. So I'm gonna very quickly go through this. I'm not gonna. You'll have access to this obviously, so you can look at it in longer in your own time. But Taunton, obviously, straight away I want to open the bus interchange and then follow that up and just make sure all of the station information and signage, we've reviewed it. We're actually there tomorrow to start doing that. And then take the Minehead bus link, which is already running, and do a bit of the work that we've just described there. And then longer term, it wasn't that long ago, I used to go and see my friend in Wells, and I used to catch the bus from Taunton railway station, and I can't do that anymore. So it's links like that I would like to see back at Taunton. And then I was reminded today, actually, we are, as a train operator, looking at more of a utility service onto the West Somerset Railway. So there's actually a bit of railway connectivity that would be good to see, and we're keen on at Taunton. Bridgewater, immediately, I think we could do more around the local bus service information at Bridgewater Station, and then longer term I've mentioned the forecourt and better direct integration at the station itself, bus-wise. High Bridge, again, straight away, it wouldn't take much to get better wayfinding between the platform and the bus stop. I think that could be done in a few months' time, within a few months, if we put our minds to it. Castle Carey, I think we would only need to tweak the timetable of the 1 and the 1C to improve the integration with trains there. And again, the information and wayfinding provision could be better. Again, we've met on site with representatives from Somerset and South West Coaches on how we start doing that, which is good. Longer term, obviously the bus stop facilities aren't great out on the main road. That would be nice to sort that, improve the forecourt layout, and actually look at the linkages from Castle Carey to Wells, Glastonbury and Street. So I mentioned my friend Amanda. She lives in Wells, and she, her local station is Castle Carey, and that she's driven there or has to drive there whenever she uses it, which is a shame. Even Bruton, we've got the 667 that runs over to Wincanton. And I'm certain we could do more with that. Frome, better wayfinding over to the main road, but actually bringing buses out from Market Square, well, not away from Market Square, but continuing them from Market Square or out to the station would be a good thing. Yeovil Pen Mill, the Yeovil bus link that is already there, the integration's quite good, but I think I certainly, as a train operator, could support that more with getting people on board it. Pen Mill is also a bit tricky in that the bus services are a little bit split between the main road and the forecourt, so doing something about that would be a nice thing to do as well.
I think you've run out of slides now, Luke, I think.
Oh, there should be an SWR bucket list as well. Are you seeing that one?
No.
Okay. No, it's got as far as Bruton, and I can't see any more pages on your that you can go forward on.
Oh, how strange. I'm just going to very quickly reshare. So I just try again. Should be...
Yeah, there we are. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. There you are, Mr. Ardley. You're not off the hook.
Right, are you finished on your one? Because we can see your one at the moment, your second one.
He's gone now. Where's he gone? Luke, have you disappeared?
Sorry, I was on mute. What are you seeing now on the slides?
We're back to we haven't got the slides now.
God, we got some gremlins tonight, haven't we? Dear, oh dear.
It keeps us all on our toes, doesn't it? Really? Now we've got Crewkerne, Axminster, Yeovil Junction.
Mr. Ardley, if you please.
Okay, right. So, yeah, I think the main opportunity, two main opportunities, are better timing and integration of the Chard link to Axminster, particularly for journeys towards Exeter. Again, it's a bit more about tweaking the timetable as much as anything. And I think we both recognise that there's more we can do with the Yeovil Junction and Yeovil Penmill link, as Luke was saying. So a bit more visibility of that. And then sort of longer term, Chard is an interesting example where there's discussions around about a Chard Parkway station, which actually isn't in Chard. Is it not really better perhaps to consider a higher frequency bus link from Chard to both Crewkerne if you're going the London direction, or Axminster if you're going the Exeter direction? So that's an interesting one, I think, to consider. And then we've sort of identified, looking at this, doing this work, we've identified that actually a bit of work with the timetable at Templecombe gives you that link to Wincanton. So there are things which might take a bit longer, but there are things we can definitely do, and I'm particularly keen on what we can do with Chard in this case. But yes, it'll take a bit of work, but I think there's some real opportunities there, not just because of now, but also there's a lot of housing planned for Chard. So again, it's a real opportunity to take advantage of that and make sure we get the right outcome in terms of investment.
Okay, thanks, Andrew.
And now I've run out of slides, so I think it might be time for questions. So thank you for bearing with. That was the hardest presentation I think I've done in the last 3 or 4 years, just through technological challenges. So thank you for bearing with.
First of all, thank you to Luke and Andrew. That's very interesting, and it's I think exciting that there are real opportunities for integration, and the work that you've done in various parts, whether it's a new station forecourt at Weymouth to get buses in, or connecting buses, at Totnes to Salcombe and Kingsbridge, and giving that real sort of connection and sort of widening journey opportunities. So I've taken a lot away from that, and probably separately the bus partnership will sort of have a discussion on some of these things, and we may want to come back to you, Luke and Andrew, separately, just to see how can we work together and support you as well as supporting us sort of going forward. And I think the opportunities of working with various partners to find funding, so like the community rail, the community sort of customer community funds, a number of things. It's not, we haven't got any money. There are opportunities, and I think this has just shown that there are different opportunities out there. So just conscious of time, we've got people that have already put their hands up, so I'm going to go through the list that I've got for questions. And I think is it Benty? Did I see Benty's iPad? That was the first hand up. Benty, are you still there for a question?
Yes, I am.
Excellent.
I want to ask you, I'm full of admiration for all the hard work you have done, but I must say, I live in Shepton, I've done it for 31 years. We lost our 2 railway stations, and therefore we lost an awful lot of business and workplaces for people. Now we are down to 174 that takes us to Bath, and if we are lucky, we can get from there to Bristol for all people that need cancer treatment and all the other big hospitals. It doesn't help us that we can go to Yeovil, or we can go take our car and go down and park in Castlecarry. I go past Castlecarry twice a day because I work in Wincanton. I've had to drive there for all the years I lived here. I'm from Denmark. I'm used to going on a train that takes me everywhere for miles and miles and miles for less than a tenner. Even now, I can go to Denmark and take a train. I cannot take a train and get into London and then catch my flight, which I did in December, to Bahrain. I had to go up, find a friend that could take me to Bath, get the night bus into London, and then get on. And I was lucky coming back. I could take Barry's coach to Shepton. We have not got any infrastructure in Shepton, and people, I'm sorry to have to say, they don't really care that much anymore about Yeovil. They want to be able to get to Bristol and Bath, where all the big hospitals are. And 174 is not protected. It is not backed by the council. So we might end up losing it, and then we are left without anything. So my question is, what can you do to help Shepton? Shepton has got over 10,000 people. We are not a small, insignificant little town. That is my question. And then secondly, the sooner you can get all those cars that are parked, lined up to the railway station in Castlecarry, the sooner the better, because it's dangerous. And people leave their buses in the darkness, and I go past there at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's dangerous.
Thank you, Benty, for that.
That's it. Thank you very much.
So the first thing to say is you are absolutely right. Shepton Mallet is an often overlooked town. It just so happens it's one of my favourite places. I spend a lot of time actually in Shepton. You're right as well that the linkage to Bristol and Bath is very, very important. So what I can do as a train operator is we're having very similar conversations in the Bath and Northey Somerset area. So with the assistance of David in the Sevenside Community Rail Partnership, we've set up regular integration meetings with Baines and the operators concerned. So I can start adding the voice of the importance of that link, especially we also, as you know, operate the train service through Bristol and Bath as well. So I can certainly add the weight that we're talking about these other locations with to that linkage. And we've previously done some work on that Mendip Explorer thing. So you have my full support in terms of that linkage. And likewise on Castlecarry, the work is sort of in the middle of trying to deal with the car parking at Castlecarry. The construction works are on site, but that hasn't and will not tackle the bus interchange. But again, we've been to site, and I'm acutely aware of that main road and the speed of that road, and the fact that the bus stop is on the verge. Basically what we're trying to do is have a look at the forecourt, because the forecourt layout only permits a small sort of Optare Solo size bus in terms of the manoeuvring, whereas the Shepton Mallet to Yeovil service is a longer single decker. We're looking at how we can adjust the forecourt to get one of those bigger buses in and off the main road, because you're absolutely right. There's nothing inviting about it at all. There's no shelter. It's fast and it feels a bit vulnerable. So I take all of your points as serious, and I agree with what you're saying, and we'll commit to trying to do something about it.
Excellent. Thanks, Luke. Next on the list is D. You've got your hand up. You were next on my list.
Okay. Just really to continue from what Peter said earlier about the late buses starting for us. This will actually start on Monday, this coming Monday, the 30th. And it also comes round through Norton Fitzwarren and Cotford St Luke, which is an absolute dream for us to be able to come out of Taunton later than 5:45 in the evening. We've studied the timetable very carefully, and it does actually link with late departures from London. So we can get on the train in London, get off the train in Taunton and get a bus home. Now, what it's added to the journey there is another 7,000 potential travellers between the two villages. So this is going to be absolutely excellent. And we're actually trying it on February the 16th, so I'll let you know. But to be able to hop on a bus and leave Taunton, it also supports the evening trade in Taunton itself.
Yeah.
So, late buses through are not just going through the usual route from Taunton to Minehead. They're coming through two extra quite sizable villages on the way, which suits everybody.
And I think that, I was going to say, Dee, I think in the bit that Luke was saying about the Minehead bus, because it's the Minehead bus that's being diverted via that way in the evening, Luke, could be built into the promotion and the development of the Minehead route, also the villages and communities along there. and I think along probably with the 25 that brings Copford into during the daytime, which connects at the railway station as well. So I think there's a real opportunity of bringing those things together. And I'm meeting with Luke tomorrow as well at the station.
Yeah,
so
also, to add to that, David, the park and ride buses are going to be running later as well.
Yeah.
So this adds to the potential that people who can't access any bus route can at least leave their car in the park and ride and go into town.
Yeah.
And just as another aside, it may at some time in the future be hopeful that we're developing Norton Fitzwarren railway station. Which, if there's a commuter service from Taunton to Bishop's Lydeard, we may also be able to let the residents of Norton Fitzwarren use that service to get into Taunton as an alternative through to Taunton from Norton Fitzwarren. But that is, I believe, some way in the future, thanks to phosphates on the building land. But again, but we're ever hopeful, and we've got an evening bus route. It does link with the trains from London, so we're really, we're moving in the right direction.
Excellent.
We're in the process of putting timetables all through the villages, and hopefully we can get the integrated times as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dee. And I'm just conscious of time, so questions going forward, we need to sort of keep them fairly tight. Bryony was the next person on my list, but I think Bryony put her hand down. But Bryony, if you are there. No? Okay. Next person was Joe Reynolds on my list next. Joe.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you, Luke and Andrew, for really impressive and interesting presentation. I'm the president of Yeovil Chamber of Commerce. We represent about 650 businesses in the Yeovil area, extending out to Langport, down to Portland, and across through North Dorset. We've been struggling a lot with transportation for businesses and for residents. My mother is disabled. She can't use any buses in Yeovil or the trains because they're not manned. She can't get her mobility scooter on them. They won't let her take a mobility scooter on anything. So she is stranded in Yeovil unless I get her in the car. Mobility scooters would be a fantastic thing, so she can go to Weymouth for the beach and things like that. Luke and Andrew, if you could sort that. But the reason I've come along tonight is we've got over 15,000 people living in Ilchester at RANS Yeovilton in Ilchester in the villages. At the moment, they have to go to Somerset for healthcare because it's the only place they can get a bus. There is no bus into Yeovil from Ilchester at all. Northland are running at the moment on 60% employee ability because they can't hire anybody who can't travel independently because of the lack of public transport. They have shifts that start as early as 5 a.m. and finish 11 in the evening. Early mornings and late evenings are essential for our businesses. Like I say, we represent about 650. Now, tying these in with the trains, we have some very skilled businesses, Pittards, Leonardo's. We have the biggest manufacturing hub in the southwest, based in Yeovil. We need skilled people to come in from Shepton Mallet, from Weymouth, from Portland, from Bristol, from every single village, hamlet, town, and stray house that's sitting on the side of a road. And I know you can't service everything, but we are suffering in Yeovil. Over 8% of our money earning people are leaving the area, not just Yeovil, but the area that we represent in South Somerset and North Dorset, because primarily of transport, because it's too costly for them to have a car and run it here. So they'll go elsewhere. They'll go to Bristol, they'll go to Cheltenham, to Gloucester, to Cardiff, to London, to Southampton, to Bournemouth. And we're losing a lot of skills here, which is leaving us with a huge skills gap. Our skills gap cannot be filled because there is not adequate provision for buses into colleges, into the universities. We don't have a full university in Somerset. That's another project we're working on. But the buses that we do have are unreliable. I had an apprentice working for me who couldn't drive because of a medical condition. It took her to get across Yeovil 4.5 hours one day because 4 buses were cancelled as she was stood at the stop. She couldn't drive. She had no other option. We have real issues with our hospitality and hotels who are based, a lot of them, the Lanes, the Hollies, the Lord Lees, in Martock, West Coker, in Chard. They can't get staff. They are struggling for chefs, and a lot of them are shutting during the week and only opening 3 days a week because there is no public transport infrastructure. This isn't just buses, it isn't just trains, it's everything you're talking about that integration. I'm trying to be really quick because I'm constantly so I'm getting a lot of stuff out. I would really like an opportunity to make these points, to talk about some other issues in more detail. We've been trying to work now with our local MP, Marcus Fish, with SSDC, with Somerset County Council, and a lot of other people. I'd really like to talk to you guys and see if there's anything that we can do together. Someone put in the chat, can businesses do private buses? We've been trialing that. We're trying to find providers for that. It serves some purpose. It's somewhat successful. Cricket St Thomas, the Warner Hotel, they manage it to a point, but again, they can only go so far. So we have got the interest of 3 private bus companies and transport companies, but they need to be integrated with the existing public transport system. Sorry, regurgitated a lot there.
Yeah, no, there's a lot there, and I think we could probably link you up with Luke and Andrew.
Please do.
Because I think that access from Yeovil Junction and Yeovil Pen Mill, other than the connection between the two, getting to the key employment centres for a start within Yeovil, whether it's I was going to say Westlands, the old name for Pittard, or the council office, it's critical, and I think it's absolutely the hospital and things like that. So
it's totally essential.
Let's see if we can link you up with Andrew and Luke then separately, because I think there's worth a real detailed discussion in that. Probably with Tony as well. In relation to sort of bus partnership. So
that'd be fantastic. My email's in the chat, but if for anyone on this call that wants to engage, give me some feedback, it's president@yeovilchamber.org.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to follow up with a 10-second point, and it's a piece of good news I failed to mention during the presentation. So we're going to undertake a very minor recast of the Weymouth to Bristol service, I believe, from this summer, where an additional so the service is going to be slightly enhanced with an extra service on the line, but it's also going to be made more clock face. So you'll get a basic 2-hourly service on that spine down through Yeovil Pen Mill. So not hugely improvements to frequency, but actually a more clock face timetable where the integration that we're talking about hinges on having a regular service pattern. So I think there's some real opportunities around the corner with Yeovil. So I'd love to chat about that.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I know we said we were finished at 9 o'clock. Are people happy just to go on a little bit longer? Because I've got a number of hands up, and I'm looking at my speakers, mainly Andrew and Luke. Are you happy? Let's say 9:30 at the end.
So I have a hard stop actually at about 9:20 because I've got to get the 9:27 to credit.
9:15 it is then. So we got 10. So let's be very quick and go through my list. So Sue next. Sue Sheldon, is it? Sue Stevens, sorry. Sue Stevens next.
Hi, I've listened for the last couple of years to the all the plans for the integration of a bus and station interchange at Taunton, and I think it's being very much driven by GWR, and I don't think often that the needs of the buses are much taken into account, I'm sorry to say. I mean, your presentation earlier used the term reinstatement of data. What does that mean? That means rerouting, doesn't it? So you're going to reroute certain of the buses halfway around West Somerset, so it could come into Taunton rail interchange. Then what happens? Some people get off and get on the train. Some people get off the train and get on those. Where do they finally go? Do they go into town? Because the rail station is not close to Taunton.
The plan is that it's the bus route will carry on into the town. It's how you better connect at the railway station on its journey into town or out from town. So it's not going to terminate there. It will carry on to the bridge, or carry on to the bus station in the centre of town. It's how we make that integrated journey. So somebody in London that wanted to go to Minehead, somebody in Minehead who wanted to go to Bristol, it's just how do we make that better? You know, it's not about taking the bus route away and terminating it at the railway station.
Okay. What about the rail station at Wellington then? What's happening about this?
That's a separate bit, and I don't think we have time to talk about that today on here, but we're more than happy to come and talk separately about that. But I think sort of in what the essence of the meeting today was about bus and rail integration, and I think the bit that Luke picked up was about, can we get the Wellington buses before the station at least come through to the station, so rather than terminating in the town, and you've got that disconnect. So we can pick that up, Sue. More than happy to.
Okay then.
Bryony's back. So Bryony, quickly.
Right, unmuted. Yeah, no, very quickly, just to pick up on the point about extended days and make the point clearly that it's really important, because the public transport system is prone to disruption, that passengers feel secure that if they do miss the connection they were aiming for, whether it's coming from bus or from rail, that there will be another service to go onto. And then also I'd welcome anyone's thoughts, and I see everyone regularly enough, so you can make it the comment public or share it privately, as to how we get through to the bus companies who see rail as a competition to some of those principal routes and maybe reluctant to run by stations as well. And I'm also looking forward to hearing about your plans for passengers to be able to buy tickets from A to B with flexibility, not just plus bus, and think that will be part of getting many more people who are non-users at the moment onto the whole public transport network, because those are the bottoms that we need on seats to make up the numbers, to make it more financially sustainable, so we can run some of those which will always be costly, rural and less in demand services, which are never less essential. So that was just my sort of thought and comment. So I don't know if I had a proper question in there, except for anything you might add in.
Well, I just wanted to add in very briefly on your last point about ticketing. So there's two things. There is the through ticketing. So there is the ability to buy a ticket from Bath to Minehead. We're very much getting back to the point of being able to make that very much a feature of what we offer. It all got dropped during COVID and resource and other priorities. I've been trained myself on how that system works in terms of upload of timetables and fares and ticketing. So once I've finished that, hopefully that will be reprioritized, and I'm hoping that in the summer we'll be back to a bit of a better place with the through ticketing. Alongside that, not everyone wants a through ticket. Obviously, there are other offers such as Plus Bus, but actually contactless capping, depending on where you are, very, very straightforward and simple to use. So I'm also really keen to emphasise the simplicity of that system as well in terms of an integrated journey. So
yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Luke. I've got 3 people, so I want to make sure that Luke gets his train or bus. So I'm going to go to Emery next. Emery.
Yeah. So I have 3 questions. The first one is, what are the plans for Somerton train station? Because I heard that the government has offered £50,000 towards a feasibility study to reopen Somerton station.
So that's Restoring Your Railway scheme, and that work was undertaken by Langport Transport Forum and WSP, the consultants. I don't think we've heard a response back from the government on that at the moment, on the outcome of whether it moves to the next phase or not. So we're waiting separately, but we can speak separately on that. Emma.
If I understand correctly, it was due to like the announcement on whether it would go ahead or not was due before Christmas.
Yes, it's been. I think it's been delayed, a mixture of because of the MP probably for Somerton and Frome, and the challenges there, and other matters. So I think other things have taken. I think it's still awaited as far as I know.
Thank you. And when can we expect to see the 667 or future bus improvements from Castle Carey to Glastonbury, Wells and Street? Because I saw that as a future improvement.
Yeah, so it's not it's not in place. It's very much an aspiration that I sort of hold. So there's plenty of work to do on that. So it's not sort of scheduled in as something that's going to happen at the moment. So we're very much at the start.
Okay, thank you. And that's all. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Henry. Rosa next.
Thank you. Good evening, folks. Thank you for the presentation. Very informative. Lots of very nice things there to look forward to. Luke, with the affinity with Wells and Shepton Mallet, can I urge you to put pressure on North Somerset for that 126 link from Wells to Weston-super-Mare, because that will open access to that railway link there, and obviously on into Bristol that way, and open up the whole northwest for those travellers, and of course for tourists who do eventually make it to Weston to enjoy that wonderful countryside.
Absolutely. So that's the Western Wales by Cheddar service. Is that right?
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, so we've had a few conversations at the Community Rail Partnership about that, David. It is a key priority of ours.
It's stalled at the border with North Somerset. So
okay.
Perhaps you can work on them from the other end.
Yeah,
I'm sure Luke
we would appreciate it. And thank you.
No
Very
pressure.
nice presentation.
Thank you, Rose. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Rosa. So just keeping time very quickly then. Sarah Webb.
Hi, I'm from Templecombe, so I have a very vested interest. I'd like to say thank you to Luke and to Andrew for a very, very inspirational talk. A couple of things. It would be so easy to have a quick fix on the 58 bus to make it integrated. We've even got a really substantial forecourt for driving in and out the station, and you know how passionate we are about Templecombe Station as well. It's also really worthwhile highlighting the 804. It would be really lovely if that was a direct line again, and the fact it's been eroded to stop at Basingstoke, so you have to change, is a real shame. We'd really love the Seaside Saturday to Weymouth. That's a great way of showing the potential that a railway has to take you to different places on occasions. That was an amazing service and hasn't been around since COVID. And we would love to see that again. That was the Salisbury to Weymouth line. It stops at Templecombe on a Saturday, there and back. Fantastic. And the last thing is just to highlight the fact that we do have an issue, and that is that we take a lot of transport from Castle Carey to Templecombe because of the cheapness of the return ticket. And I think that perhaps something needs to be done in terms of just being aware of that.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Sarah. Andrew, do you want to briefly say something on that regarding the bus link with the 58 coming?
Yeah, we'll certainly have a look at that 58 and talk that through with the council. So yeah, I was happy, definitely take that way and have a look at it. The Weymouth train, unfortunately, that's not going to happen anytime soon because that requires route learning, and we just can't incur that cost at the moment. Unfortunately, that's a bit of a luxury we can't incur because of the government's managing our finances. So yeah, it'd be nice to have, maybe come back one day, but unfortunately not anytime soon.
Just quickly, Andrew, we've got a lot of development coming in through Templecombe, including a application for 140 houses in the last couple of weeks. So 106 agreements would be a huge possibility in terms of maybe looking at funding that 58 and some improvements in the train station travel.
Yeah. Okay.
Is your details on the have you left your details on the chat, Sarah? So
yeah,
that we can make sure that we can link Andrew up and everything, so that we've got that. And we have final question from Mark then. Mark's iPhone I've got here.
Hi, it's actually Mark Morgan-Hughes, Commercial Director for First Bus.
Hello, Mark.
Buses. So I was just going to cover off a couple of points. First of all, funding after 31st of March. I'm not fretting, so don't. That's all I'm going to say. Just in terms of network, we're obviously quite short notice with these evening services, and so I need to do some sterling work locally on them, on promoting them. It's taken us quite some manoeuvring and effort to get these through, if I'm honest, both through Somerset Council for a start date, also through the Traffic Commissioner for regulatory approval. So that's why there hasn't been a huge amount of notice. Managed to get the timetable booklet in PDF form, but we will be promoting them. Keep going, and it's not a flash in the pan like the £1 fares in Taunton. It's a three-year project. So I get the excitement, but plenty of time to really market those properly. What else was I going to say? I don't know if Bryony was referring to us, but no, we don't see trainers competition. I spoke to Andrew relatively recently. I haven't spoken to Luke for a while, actually, but you know, I'm sure the three of us will all get together and work through some of these things. I think the one thing I would say is...
Can I just stop you a minute? Because I can see Luke is just putting his scarf on to get the 21-26 to Barnstable, I think, probably. So could I just hold you just for a moment and just say, because I don't want to lose Luke without saying a huge thank you, and I don't know if Andrew is about to go as well. So a huge thank you to both of you of giving an inspirational talk today that's given a lot of sort of thought and inspiration, thought-provoking opportunities for the bus network to work with the rail network to expand journey opportunities throughout Somerset, and that's what we need. So Luke, if you've got the dash now.
I have. Will you have us back in a few months' time so that we can progress?
Yes, because we need you to do all the IT.
Never again. Never again. Thank you. I really appreciate your time.
No, thanks, Luke. Are you still here, Andrew, at the moment?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Can I go back to Mark then, and he can finish off, and then we'll say, so Mark, carry. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. Good night, Luke. Renamed for Terminator now in our circles. So I think the one thing that there's a real opportunity for is actually within Taunton itself. It's something we've said we're going to work through. We've done a lot of stuff with Somerset County Council, some of it relatively short notice recently. But yeah, there's some big plans in the BSIP for Somerset, including the reopening of the bus station and the refurbishment of it. Huge amount of bus priority, which is a word I struggle to say. But there's actually some opportunities there on network as well. And if I'm honest, I'm not convinced about pushing everything through to the railway station. It's not an easy journey for the vehicles that go there already, but we're really keen to do a piece of work with Somerset in the near future on trying to make sure that we actually integrate the railways, the service up to the railway, the service up to the hospital, both of the park and rides as well. So I think there's a real opportunity there, but we just need a bit of breathing space to start that piece of work.
That latter bit is music to my ears, Mark. Being a Taunton resident for the last 60 odd years, that sort of the connectivity, not just only from the railway station, but from the people that live in Priorswood and that part of the town, trying to get access to work in the hospital or the college or other parts of the town. And we understand why, as the traffic congestion in the centre holds the bus network up. So many years ago, when it was sort of split in half to help the bus network work seamlessly. But there is opportunity. I think at least one probably is looking at the Wellington buses where the bigger population is. Could we bring some of them through to the station so it starts to make a bit of connectivity? Or as you say, can we connect the buses better in the parade somehow so whether the bus to the railway station is going or vice versa? So we're happy to work with you on that, Mark.
I think it's that bit. It's that bit about how we connect buses. The rebuilding of the bus station requires and has already had some thought, not just about, we've never had all the buses in the bus station, but how we actually manage the connections within the town as well. There's a real opportunity to recast and brand the town network. We've got more newer buses coming, so there's lots going on. I mean, a lot of it will depend on the BSIP bus priority works in Taunton. I think everybody would be staggered if you looked at our running times within the Taunton town today versus I first got involved in it 8 years ago. It actually highlights the problem for us, but great opportunity. And Somerset County Council, it's a new council, new administration, new outlook on public transport. That's actually the key. That's one of the real keys to all of this. Completely different relationship with them. So really positive.
Thank you very much, Mark. We're now coming up to about 9:25. We're about 25 minutes over our time. I'd just like to say a huge thank you to everybody. There are quite a few questions on the chat, and we'll take them offline and have a look at them and respond back and make sure that we link up with Luke and with Andrew. If there are any questions or anything for the partnership that we can work on, I'm thinking looking at Bryony from Travel Watch Southwest and thinking making sure that we connect all that. We've got all the right people. I think Mike Rigby's here as well, so making sure that we've got all the right people that are in that area of influencing the opportunities and understanding sort of how we connect, because communities have changed over the last 60 years. When I started to travel on the bus from Bishop's Lydia to Taunton as a child, at only sixpence to go to school, you know, people were used to go, the town centre shopping was a traditional thing. Things have now moved, things have changed, populations have changed, places of work have changed, and people want to do different things. So looking at it in a holistic way now from 2023 is really important. So I hope you enjoyed that presentation. We'll have some others throughout the year, and if you've got any ideas for things you would like us to sort of bring to you, please let us know. I don't know whether Mike wants to say anything before we go, or Peter does before we go. But thank you, and we'll apologise for the interruptions that we had by various people from around the world by the sounds of it. But Luke was very good in managing that. You know, it's and I think, you know, the technology that we're using, we probably would have never had 75 people or nearly 100 people at a presentation like this in the past. So it's really beneficial that we can stretch right across Somerset to connect all our communities to have the opportunity to either have their voice heard or at least hear the information that's going on and know that there are opportunities out there. And I think there are a number of work streams and other financial streams that we can start to work with, especially in the rail partnerships. And I did see Keith Walton from the Sevenside Rail Partnership. I do some work for them as well. So there are real opportunities that we could work with the Heart of Wessex and the Blackmore Vale to see whether there's any funding to promote bus links at Crewkerne or Temple Combe or Yeovil Penmill or Junction, etc. So certainly Bridgewater and Highbridge as well as Taunton. So a huge thank you. Peter, do you want to just finish off with the last few words?
Thank you, David. Thank you to everyone. I think it's been a really interesting meeting, really fortunate to have such enterprising people working in our area and interested in integrating buses and trains. So thank you for giving up your evening. I hope you found it as useful as I did. Apologies for all the problems we had at the very beginning of the meeting with some over-enthusiastic guests, but it got sorted in the end. And thank you again. Thanks. Thank you, David.
Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.